Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into the life of, well, a really complex figure, Benito Mussolini. His name often brings up images of, authoritarianism, conflict.
Absolutely. Iron fists and all that.
Exactly.
Okay.
But his journey, well, it was surprisingly contradictory. We're going to unpack that. We're drawing our insights today from a YouTube video transcript, Mussolini, a profile from the Dynastic Profiles channel.
A good source, yeah.
Our mission, basically, is to trace his path from this unruly kid and, believe it or not, ardent socialist.
Right, that always surprises people.
To becoming the founder of fascism, building a totalitarian state, and then, well, his pretty dramatic downfall. We'll look at his ideology, how it changed Italy under his rule, and, the massive impact he had on the 20th century.
It's quite the trajectory.
It really is. And here's the hook, the big question for you. How did this young guy who passionately hated capitalism and religion, who even fled military service, how did he become the man trying to resurrect the Roman Empire and buddying up with Hitler?
It's a puzzle, isn't it? A fascinating and, frankly, terrifying.
Okay, let's unpack this. So it all starts July 29, 1883, Perdapio, northern Italy. And young Benito, well, he wasn't exactly winning popularity contests.
Yeah.
Known as a bully, apparently.
Yeah, the records mention making fun of classmates, even pinching people in church just to hear them yelp.
Charming. And apparently quite temperamental, always in trouble.
Seems like it. That energy had to go somewhere.
He did get a teaching diploma, 1901, but could he get a teaching job? Rejected.
Right. So what did he do?
Spent months apparently indulging in alcohol and women. Classic troubled youth, maybe. Then, 1902, he bolts to Switzerland. Why?
Yeah.
To dodge the draft.
It's really striking, isn't it? That early restlessness, that need for control, maybe, or just attention. You see it in the bullying, the indulgence, and then later it just scales up massively.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that thread running through. And in Switzerland, that restlessness finds a new outlet.
Politics.
He's working as a laborer, but he starts going to socialist meetings in Lausanne and discovers he's got a knack for public speaking.
A powerful knack, by all accounts. He quickly rose through those far-left circles.
He even starts writing for a socialist newspaper, The Future of the Workers, run by Italian immigrants there.
And this is where you see that really strong anti-capitalist, anti-religion stance. He wasn't shy about it. Speeches, essays.
He genuinely despised them at this point.
Yeah, and it highlights that deep anti-establishment feeling he had early on.
Right.
It's just fascinating how dramatically that would shift later. Was it a real change of heart or something else? Opportunism, perhaps?
A question we'll keep coming back to, I think. Anyway, he returns to Italy in 1904. There's an amnesty for deserters.
Okay.
Then about 5 years of, well, not much happening, obscurity, basically. But in 1909, he jumps back into extreme left-wing politics, editing local socialist papers in the Northeast, then moves to Milan, 26.
So he's back in the game.
Definitely. And around this time, his personal life solidifies a bit, too. He moves in with Rachele Guidi in 1914. He'd fallen for her back in 1909. They end up having 5 kids together.
Right.
His writing talent really takes off. Starts his own paper, La Lotta de Classi, the class struggle, gets him noticed.
Made a name for himself.
So much so that by 1912, he's appointed editor of Italy's biggest socialist newspaper, Avant Forward.
And he was successful there, wasn't he?
Hugely. Readership more than doubled under his leadership. He was a star in the socialist movement.
Okay, so he's at the peak of his social career.
And then everything changes. World War I is looming, and Mussolini does a complete 180 on Italy's involvement. He starts writing articles supporting the war.
Which was completely against the Socialist Party line at the time. International solidarity, anti-war, that was the standard view.
Exactly. So the fallout is immediate. He resigns from Avanti, gets kicked out of the Italian Socialist.
Wow. So a total break.
Total break. But he lands on his feet politically, immediately takes over editorship of a different paper, Il Popolo d'Italia, the people of Italy.
And uses that to promote what?
Nationalism, his new cause. This is really the crucible where fascism is born. He's still using some socialist language, but he's twisting it, merging it with this intense national.
How did he actually manage that? Blending those two seemingly opposing forces, international socialism and, well, intense national focus.
It's crucial, isn't it?
Oh.
He basically argued that the nation, the state, was the ultimate unifier and protector, not class struggle across borders. National unity above all, led by a strong hand. He sort of co-opted socialist ideas about collective action, but redirected them towards the nation state.
So taking the collectivist impulse, but making it national, not national, and ditching the class warfare aspect for national unity against external threats or internal ones like communism.
Precisely. And it clearly resonated with people later. Now, his war involvement wasn't just writing. He actually got drafted.
Oh, right, despite trying to dodge it earlier.
Served, got wounded accidentally by a mortar explosion during training, I think.
Ouch.
After he recovered, he went back to editing Il Popolo d'Italia, but now with backing from wealthy patron, industrialists maybe, who liked his anti-socialist, pro-nationalist turn.
That makes sense. Funding changes hands.
So fast forward to post-World War I Italy. The situation is dire. Massive unemployment, social unrest, real political chaos, polarization like crazy.
A perfect storm.
And Mussolini, ever the opportunist, uses his newspaper to basically say Italy needs a strong man, someone ruthless and energetic, in his words, to make a clean sweep.
Positioning himself, essentially.
Totally. And in 1919, he forms the Revolutionary Fascist Party. It's a mixed bag. At first, discontented socialists, ex-soldiers.
United by what, mainly? Anti-communist.
That was a huge part of it, yeah. Combating the perceived threat of a Bolshevik-style revolution in Italy.
And the name fascist
comes from fasci, the Italian word. It refers to that ancient Roman symbol, the bundle of sticks with an axe head. Symbol of authority, unity, state power.
Very deliberate.
Very. And then come the black shirt, his paramilitary wing. They start using violence, street brawls, intimidation to crush opposition, particularly socialists and communists.
So violence was baked in from the start.
Absolutely. And that violence, plus the fear of communism, the terrible economy, and Mussolini's undeniable charisma as a speaker, it all fuels the fascist party's growth. It becomes a national movement, fast.
It gained traction quickly then.
Very quickly. By the 1921 elections, they win 35 seats in parliament. Not a majority, but a foothold. Then they rename themselves the National Fascist Party. More official sound. And during this time, the far right, including the fascists, are systematically dismantling or taking over labor unions across the country.
Silencing opposition, consolidating control over work.
Yeah. The last gasp of the old socialist trade unions is this anti-fascist general strike in July 1922.
How did Mussolini react?
He saw his chance, issued an ultimatum to the government. Either you crush this strike or we, the fascists, will save the state ourselves.
Bold move, a direct challenge to state authority.
Extremely bold. And it leads directly to the famous March on Rome, October 1922. They gather maybe 30,000 party members in Naples, then start marching towards the capital.
So was this an actual military invasion?
Not quite. It was more political theater, but with a very real threat of force behind it. The prime minister, Facta, wanted the king to declare a state of siege, use the army.
But the king...
King Victor Emmanuel III refused. He didn't sign the order.
Why not? What was he thinking?
The thinking seems to be he was scared. Scared the army might lose to the fascists or maybe even side with them. Scared of civil war. Scared the monarchy itself could be overthrown.
So fear and calculation. It's incredible how sometimes power is just handed over almost by accident due to instability and fear rather than won in a straight fight.
Exactly. Instead of confronting Mussolini, the king asks him to form a government. October 29, 1922, Mussolini becomes prime minister legally.
Wow. So the march was less a conquest and more a very effective black...
That's a good way to put it. And initially, a lot of people were actually relieved. They hoped the fascists would bring order and the strikes get things back to normal.
The classic appeal of the strong man in chaotic time.
But the darker side emerged quickly. 1924, the kidnapping and murder of Giacomo Matteotti, prominent socialist deputy who'd spoken out against fascist violence and electoral fraud.
Carried out by Mussolini's black shirts, right?
Yes, and it caused a huge scandal. Really damaged Mussolini's image, internationally and domestic.
Did it threaten his hold on power?
It could have. There was massive public outcry. But Mussolini managed to ride it out. He arrested a few. Fascists involved, only one really served time, but the implication was strong that he'd sanctioned it. He basically weathered the storm through sheer ruthlessness and control.
A chilling display of how power could be maintained even after such a blatant act?
Definitely. Now, on the economic front, initially, his coalition government wasn't radically interventionist. The finance minister, De Stefani, pursued free trade, tax reforms, and it worked for a bit. Growth happened, unemployment fell.
So a surprisingly conventional start economically.
Yeah, but that changed. 1925, the lira gets devalued, De Stefani is out, and Mussolini starts taking much more direct control of the economy.
Oh, the shift begins.
And politically, too, after elections that solidified fascist dominance using intimidation tactics. Mind you, he pushed through the Christmas Eve law.
What did that do?
Made him, as prime minister, accountable only to the king, not parliament. Effectively neutered parliament, opposition party, outlawed soon after.
Right. Step by step, dismantling democracy.
And this is when he fully embraces the title Il Duce, the leader, along with other grand titles like head of government, His Excellency.
This period, say 1925 onwards, it really marks that definitive shift, doesn't it? From a coalition leader, even an authoritarian one, to a full-blown totalitarian dictator. It mirrored what was happening, or about to happen, elsewhere in Europe, too. Centralizing power, crushing dissent.
Absolutely. He built a blueprint. And his control over the economy just kept growing. By 1934, he's boasting that the state controls 3/4 of Italian industry and agriculture.
Second only to the Soviet Union in terms of state control, allegedly.
That was his claim. Of course, not everyone was happy. There were assassination attempts in the late 20s. One bullet apparently grazed his nose.
Close call. Did that make him more paranoid? Or more convinced of his death?
Probably a bit of both, but certainly his ego inflated. He started seeing himself as this Caesar figure, ready to restore Italy's glory, make it a world power.
And his reputation internationally, at least on the far right.
It soared in the late 20s. He was admired by fascist movements everywhere. Even Adolf Hitler wrote, asking for an autograph.
Which Mussolini initially turned down.
He did. But Hitler's rise in Germany in 1933 forced Mussolini to reassess.
Had to take him seriously then.
Yep. Hitler visits Italy in 1934. Big state visit, lots of fascist pageantry.
Did they hit it off?
Privately, Mussolini apparently said he didn't like Hitler, called him paranoid, and relations really soured later that year.
What happened?
Nazi supporters in Austria assassinated Engelbert Dollfuss, the Austrian chancellor. Dollfuss was Mussolini's ally, and Hitler wanted Austria.
Ah, the Anschluss ambition, even then.
Right. Mussolini reacted strongly, threatened Germany with war, moved troops to the Austrian border, and it worked. Hitler backed down on Austria for another 4 years anyway.
So Mussolini stood up to Hitler initially?
He did, but Il Duce had his own expansionist plan. October 1935, Italy invades Ethiopia, a free nation.
Sparking international condemnation.
Massive outrage. League of Nations sanctions, though they weren't very effective. Addis Ababa falls by May 1936. Mussolini declares victory, but fighting drags on for years.
And there were atrocities, weren't there? War crimes.
Yes, horrific stuff. Entire villages massacred, use of poison gas, which was banned by international treaties even then.
It's chilling. That blatant disregard for any rules, any humanity. It really shows the nature of the regime and sets a terrible precedent for what's coming in the wider war.
No question. And this aggression, this shared disregard for norms, maybe it pushed him closer to Hitler. Because in 1937, Hitler invites Mussolini to Germany for a state visit.
And Mussolini is impressed. Or intimidated.
Probably a mix. When he gets back to Italy, he starts appeasing Hitler. Enacts anti-Jewish laws, restricting rights, orders anti-Semitic propaganda in the papers.
Copying the Nazi playbook?
Increasingly so. He seems more and more subservient, maybe even intimidated by the sheer power of the Third Reich, even makes Italian soldiers adopt the goose step for parade.
Wow, that's quite a symbol of subservience.
Isn't it? Then, emboldened perhaps by Hitler's moves, Mussolini invades Albania in April 1939. Trick takeover, 5 days.
Another independent nation crushed.
And then the final step. May 22, 1939, Mussolini and Hitler signed the Pact of Steel, a formal military alliance.
Sealing Italy's fate with Germany's.
Irrevocably. But Hitler has always had his own plan. August 39, he signs the Non-Aggression Pact with Stalin.
Stunning the world, including Mussolini.
And then September 1st, invades Poland. Britain and France declare war. World War II begins.
And Mussolini, does he jump in immediately?
No, he hesitates. Italy isn't ready for a major war. He waits to see how Germany fares against Britain and France.
Playing it cautious for once.
For a moment. But then Hitler just rolls across France in the summer of 1940. Blitzkrieg.
Right. Looks unstoppable.
And Mussolini gets worried. Worried Italy will be left out, overshadowed by Germany's success. So, despite his military being unprepared, he declares war on the Allies, June 10th, 1940.
A gamble based on perceived German victory.
Totally. Just before that, he persuades the king to give him supreme command of the armed forces.
So, Il Duce is now commander.
Yep. He's dreaming big again. Resurrecting the Roman Empire, making the Mediterranean an Italian lake.
Grand ambitions. Who did the reality match up?
Not well. September 1940, he orders the invasion of British-held Egypt from Libya, aiming for Alexandria, Cairo.
The North Africa campaign begins?
It begins disastrously for Italy. The British launch Operation Compass. It decimates the Italian 10th Army. We're talking 150,000 Italian troops lost, killed, wounded, captured.
A catastrophe. End of the Roman Empire dream right there.
Pretty much. And it severely damages the Axis war effort, too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mussolini's overreach becomes a huge liability for Hitler.
Absolutely. Italy goes from supposed partner to a drain on German resources. Hitler has to constantly bail Mussolini out, diverting troops and supplies that were desperately needed elsewhere, especially later on the Eastern Front. That delay in invading the Soviet Union, partly caused by needing to fix Mussolini's messes in Greece and Africa, arguably a fatal error for Germany.
A huge strategic consequence. And the disasters kept coming for Italy. October 1940, Mussolini invades Greece through Albania. Another poorly planned adventure.
Another
massive failure. Another 100,000 Italian casualties. Hitler is furious. He now knows Italy is a liability.
Hitler has to step in again.
Has to. Sends German forces, the Africa Corps, under Rommel to salvage the situation in North Africa in early 41. Sends troops to conquer Greece in April 41. All this delays Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union.
Right, critical delay.
Rommel has some initial success in North Africa. The Desert Fox legend began. But ultimately, the Axis forces are decisively beaten at El Alamein in late 1942.
The turning point in North Africa.
Definitely. After that, it's a long retreat until the last Axis forces in Tunisia surrender in May 1940.
And with North Africa secured.
Italy is next. Sicily is the obvious target, especially with America now fully in the war in Europe. The Allied invasion of Sicily starts July 10th, 1943.
And the Italian mainland follows
Within 2 months. Meanwhile, Mussolini himself, he's reportedly in declining health, physically and politically weak.
The pressure must have been immense. Regime
Completely. And the Italian establishment, including the king and even figures within the fascist party, decide he has to go. July 25, 1943, King Victor Emmanuel summons Mussolini.
Tells him it's over.
Tells him the war is lost, dismisses him, and appoints Marshal Badoglio as the new prime minister. Mussolini is arrested right after leaving the meeting, imprisoned.
Just like that, after 20 years of absolute power.
Gone in an afternoon. But Hitler, he wasn't done with him.
He stays loyal, or sees him as a useful pawn.
Maybe both. Hitler's determined to keep fighting in Italy, stop the Allies advancing north, and he orders a rescue mission for Mussolini.
The raid on Gran Sasso.
That's the one. Campo Imperatore Hotel, high in the mountains, September 12, 1943. German commandos, led by Otto Skorzeny, land in gliders, daring raid.
And they get him out.
Without firing a shot. Fly him out. It's a huge propaganda win for the Nazis.
But what's left for Mussolini to lead? Italy is split, isn't it?
It is. The Badoglio government sides with the Allies. So Hitler sets Mussolini up as the leader of a new German puppet state in northern Italy, the Italian Social Republic, often called the Salo Republic.
So he's back in charge.
Nominally is the key word. He's a shadow of his former self, basically a prisoner of the German. Under 24-hour SS guard, calls monitored, movements restricted. He has little real power.
A tragic comic figure by this point, almost.
Almost. He holds on till the very end is near. April 1945, the Allies are closing in from the south. Partisans are rising up everywhere. Mussolini tries to flee.
Escape to where? Switzerland again?
Seems to be the plan. Tries to slip across the border disguised, traveling with a German convoy.
Does he make it?
No. He's recognized by Italian communist partisans near Lake Como, April 27, 1945. He's captured, along with his mistress, Clara Petacci.
And then?
The partisans hold a quick summary trial, basically. The next day, April 28th, Mussolini, Petacci, and several other captured fascists are taken to a small village, Giuliano di Mezzegua.
And executed?
Executed by firing.
A brutal end.
And it gets more brutal. Their bodies were taken to Milan, hung upside down from a girder at a petrol station in Piazza Loreto, a place where fascists had previously executed partisans.
A public spectacle of revenge?
Exactly. Huge crowds gathered. The bodies were spat on, kicked, abused, eventually cut down and dragged through the street. A truly ignominious end.
And his leg, if we connect this all back.
Well, he was buried first in an unmarked grave, then later moved to his family crypt in Pradapio, which is controversially still a site of pilgrimage for some neo-fascists today.
But the broader picture, his regime built this incredibly oppressive police, maybe not quite as systematically murderous on the scale of Hitler's Germany or Stalin's USSR within its own pre-war border, but ruthless. Opposition crushed, thousands killed or imprisoned, and then the war crimes, especially in Ethiopia. Tens of thousands dead there. He bears responsibility for immense suffering.
That's just, what a story. From that angry socialist kid to Il Duce dreaming of empire to being strung up in a Milan square. It's an almost unbelievable trajectory.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How did that initial hope some Italians had for just a strong government, someone to end the chaos, bring order, how did that morph into the brutal reality of a police state that destroyed so many lives and ultimately led to such a horrifying end? Not just for him, but for Italy in the war. It's a cautionary tale about power, populism, and the fragility of democracy.
A powerful cautionary tale indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the dark and complex legacy of Benito.